Single dad's little girl missed her exam to help a female CEO. Then a helicopter landed in their yard. The morning the exam buses rolled past their small rental house, something unseen cracked open the future. The sky over Cedar Falls, Iowa, was the color of unspoken promises, and 9-year-old Hannah Mercer stood barefoot on the porch with her backpack already zipped, watching her father's shoulders sag as if the day itself weighed too much. She did not know then that kindness would cost her an exam and reward her with a helicopter landing in their yard, but she felt the pull of it, sharp and undeniable, like a bell rung inside the chest. If you believe stories still matter, if you believe kindness can ripple farther than fear, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. These are the stories that remind us who we can be. Hannah's father, Thomas Mercer, had learned to move quietly through mornings since his wife's passing 2 winters before. He packed lunches with the care of a man rebuilding himself from ash, folded notes into brown bags with a penciled heart, and counted pennies like prayers. The exam mattered because it was a door. Hannah's math placement test would decide whether she could join the accelerated program that came with tutoring and meals he could never afford. The bus honked, a brief sound of urgency, and Thomas lifted his eyes from the sink, forcing a smile that tried not to show the worry stitched into his days. They were halfway down the street when the world stumbled. At the corner by the brick pharmacy, a woman slumped against the wall, her suit too sharp for the neighborhood, her face drained of color. A red scarf had slipped loose at her throat, and she pressed it there as if holding the sky together. Commuters flowed around her like water around a stone. Hannah's hand tightened in her father's, then tugged free with a small strength that surprised him. She crossed without asking, knelt, and did what she had learned in school assemblies about helping before looking away. She held the scarf in place, steady and calm, until someone shouted for an ambulance and sirens threaded the air. Thomas stood helpless, the bus pulling away, the clock in his head screaming. He wanted to lift Hannah, to run, to apologize to a future he could not see. Instead, he knelt too, his jacket around the woman's shoulders, his voice low and firm, anchoring a stranger whose name he did not know. The ambulance arrived, lights breaking the morning open, and the woman's eyes found Hannah's with a gratitude so heavy it settled into memory. By the time the doors closed, the exam bus was gone, and the street had returned to its ordinary breath. The woman was Claire Whitaker, though Thomas and Hannah would not learn that until much later. She was a CEO of a logistics company that stitched supply lines across states, a woman whose days were measured in decisions and distances. A sudden medical crisis had folded her there on the sidewalk. Not dramatic, not loud, just dangerous enough to change everything. In the emergency room, as doctors stabilized her, she kept returning to the small hands that did not shake, to the child who stayed. Hannah cried that afternoon, the kind of quiet crying that feels like apologizing to the ceiling. Thomas made macaroni and tried to make the house feel normal, but the day refused. The school called, explaining policies in careful tones, and Thomas nodded into the phone, the words pressing into him like rain through thin shoes. That night, he wrote an email to the district with the humility of a man asking the world to bend an inch. He did not expect an answer. Days passed. Thomas worked extra shifts at the warehouse, the hum of forklifts becoming a lullaby for his worry. Hannah studied anyway, erasing and reworking problems at the kitchen table, her pencil worn down like faith under pressure. Then the letter came, crisp and official, denying a makeup test. Thomas folded it small and placed it in the drawer where he kept things that hurt but could not be thrown away. What Thomas did not know was that Claire Whitaker woke with a different drawer inside her, one labeled debt. She asked questions, followed threads, found the address scribbled by a paramedic who remembered a child with steady hands. She read about Hannah's missed exam, the appeal denied, the father's long hours. It was not pity that moved her, but recognition. The machines and schedules she commanded had taught her how fragile systems could be without compassion. The morning the helicopter landed, the yard was still damp with dew. Thomas was tying his boots when the sound grew from a distant whisper into a thunder that pressed the air flat. Neighbors poured onto porches, disbelief stitched across their faces. The helicopter settled on the Mercer's patch of grass like a miracle with paperwork, blades slowing, doors opening. Claire Whitaker stepped out carefully, a scarf at her throat, her eyes bright with purpose. She did not speak in speeches or promises. She listened. She thanked. She asked permission to help. Within hours, the school district received a call that reframed policies as possibilities. A private testing center offered a seat, transportation arranged, tutoring funded. Claire's company set aside a scholarship in Hannah's name, not for headlines, but for the long road ahead. The yard returned to quiet, but the silence had changed shape. Hannah took the test the following week, her hands steady again, the numbers lining up like friends. She passed into the program, not because the world owed her, but because someone chose to notice. Thomas cried in his truck, the steering wheel a place to rest his forehead, relief and gratitude mixing into something that felt like breath after being underwater. Time moved the way it does, forward and uneven. Claire recovered fully, her company growing not just in reach, but in heart. She visited on birthdays, sent books with notes about courage disguised as curiosity. Thomas found steadier work, a supervisor who valued his reliability. Hannah grew taller, her questions sharper, her kindness intact. If this story is touching your heart right now, if you feel that ache that says goodness still matters, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and let us know in the comments that stories like this should keep being told. Years later, on a spring afternoon heavy with blossoms, another helicopter did not land in the yard, but a letter did. Hannah had been accepted to a summer science institute, full scholarship, her essay anchored by the morning she missed an exam to help a stranger. She wrote not about sacrifice, but about attention, about how seeing someone in need can rearrange a life. Just before the ending, please comment this line below so we know you were here with us. Kindness still changes everything. The yard grew grass again, the memory of blades fading, but the lesson stayed. A child's choice, a father's humility, a leader's gratitude had braided into a future none of them could have planned. And somewhere in Cedar Falls, the sky kept its promises. One quiet act at a time.